Alright, hello everyone. So I'm gonna start this tutorial series, which I've been meaning to do for a while, but the suggested topic that we decided on was turn-based combat. So while I am doing this in 3D, all of this stuff I talk about can be applied to 2D as well. Like animations, it would be using sprites instead, but like you could still do pretty much everything I'm gonna do here for this series. So let me go ahead really quickly. And in here just make a text file. This is just so I can start planning stuff out. Actually, let's close it that, and then this will open up in Visual Studio, which is a little bit nicer of a text editor than Notepad. And of course, it puts Visual Studio on my other screen, but we'll look at that in a second. So we'll talk about that while I'm importing some packages. Because ultimately what I want to show is a bunch of different tools that you can use to sort of make your turn-based combat look a lot better. So like we could go into shader graph later, as well as visual effects graph. But for now, I think I'll stick with just importing Cinemachine, as well as post-processing, of course. So while that's importing, we'll start talking about this plan. I should be signed in. Hold on. Uh, Okay, I'll do that over here. Just so my password doesn't get out anywhere. But yeah, I don't know why that happened all of a sudden, but so the plan sort of for this is really here, let me zoom in as well so it's a bit easier to see. But what we want is some sort of modular system where we just slap a script onto a character and then they can easily become a participant, and we don't have to worry about distinguishing between players and enemies via scripts. We could do that just like via fields, or just assignments and stuff. Um, so yeah, I guess the first thing we're gonna need is we're gonna need some sort of way to hold um, all of the like stats and moves and everything that a character would need to do battle with. So we're actually gonna hold off on implementing turn-based combat I think until the next episode. This episode will mainly be set up as well as creating this combatant stats class that'll hold a bunch of the stuff that we need. I realize I just said all of this and didn't write anything down, making this whole text file useless, but let me just write this, as well as we'll need some sort of turn combat manager. This is where the bulk of the series will be spending its time, most likely. Just getting the combat system going. And then, of course, we need polish. So this will be stuff like Cinemachine. This will be stuff like uh, particles, sound effects, all of the juice stuff. Maybe even we'll throw in some screen shake if we're feeling up to it. But yeah, we're gonna start off here for now. See how far we get. I don't know how long I'm gonna make these episodes. I'm thinking somewhere between 15 and 20 minutes. So hopefully that plan actually works. Yeah. And let's also, yeah, just get post-processing installed really quick. That should be pretty quick. But yeah, so as you can see, before I started importing all these packages and making this text file, I just had a blank 3D project open. I am using 2019.2, but I think most of the stuff, except maybe like HDRP if I switch later, will be usable for pretty much any Unity version past 2017, or yeah, past Unity 5. So yeah, let's go ahead and dive right into it. So let's go ahead first off and just create some sort of place for our whole battle to take place. I really dislike the bright white. I'm just gonna give it this cool little material that just Unity has by default. And I'll probably scale it out as well, so it's a bit larger. And this will just be our ground, and just make that at -1. And then let's go ahead and create a capsule that'll be our player for now. Once we get into like animations and stuff, I'll replace a capsule with like actual characters that I'll get from like Mixamo or something. Let's go ahead and reset the transform on this dude. And then okay, so that's basically all the setup we need for now. We'll worry about the rest of the stuff later. I guess we could add like a Cinemachine stuff to here, but we'll worry again about that later. Let's go ahead and create a folder here. This will be scripts, where we'll have all of our stuff. Let's go ahead and create a combatant stats. Okay. So this is the script that's going to be sitting on every character that you can engage in a battle with or have in your party. And so the way this will work, we'll basically need a bunch of things. We'll need a public int for the max health of the character. We'll also have a private. I guess we could make it public. No, it should be private. Int current health. And we'll just make an accessor for it. So public int current health get would return current health. I am assuming a little bit of scripting proficiency, which I'll be going pretty fast here, not really explaining what every basic thing is, like what a class is or what these methods do. I'll probably mention, but if you want me to, you can ask in the comments or just send me a message and I'll try and get to all of those. This should be a private set, right? I guess not. Okay, well, we only need it to be an accessor, so that's fine. We also need like so another thing we'll need stats for like attack speed, damage. Actually, instead health should also be a stat. So really quickly, let's get rid of everything we've just done and go back into our scripts folder. And let's create a C# script, and this will just be a stat. And then this will not be a mono behavior. This is just gonna have a bunch of stuff that we'll need. And I'll also make this serializable so it shows up in the inspector, because it should have just basic stuff in it. So we'll need a public string name for the stat. We'll also need public float, or not float, we'll just do a vector2 for the effect, I guess, stat range. So the reason I'm doing this is I want it so that you have a minimum and maximum value, but there's no set like damage value, so you don't do 15 damage every time. You do a random between like two values. I guess that isn't really necessary. I don't know, it adds a bit of life to the system, so it isn't just you know, just 15 damage every single time. And helps make this so you need to plan a little bit more for your moves. We'll also have let's make a list of floats for multipliers. The reason I'm doing this is in case you want items on your characters that have different multipliers to different stats. Then you can have that instead of having to worry about affecting one singular float correctly. You just apply a list of multipliers. Um, we also need so yeah, we need the range, we need the name, we need multipliers. We also need a couple of methods. Um, so we'll make a public float evaluate. This will basically return so float result will just be random.range between stat range dot x and stat range dot y. And then we'll do something like result equals multipliers dot for each. We'll do result times equals x. Result times x. Wait, hold on. This might not be what I want. Yeah, I'll just do it normally. For each float multiplier and multipliers, we'll just do result times equals multiplier, and then we just return result. We'll also have just a for being handy. We'll have evaluate int. This will have an int result. Actually, no, we'll just keep it afloat, and then we'll just do f.round to int. Yeah, that'll just make it easier so we don't have to always round to int on our end. Another thing we might need. I think that should be good. Also, I'm wondering if I should, instead of multiplying the result, multiply the stat range by the multiplier instead. And I think that is actually a better idea. So, let's just shift this up here. Instead of this, we'll do stat range dot x. Or I guess we can just do that. Yeah. And then I can just the same thing here. That would make more sense. Okay. We have stats. So now if we go in here, we can create a public stat for health. And then if we go and look in the inspector after adding this script to our player, we now have this health drop down here where we can add a name. Just be like health. And in fact, I might want to make the name actually just a type and then make an enum. Because you don't want duplicates of stats on things, but yeah, we could make like the stat range between 5 and 10. And then we could do in stat, we could just go in like context menu. And then for now, we'll just do like debug.log result. We'll just do like value. So what context menu does is once it compiles, it allows us to click on this. I guess we can't do that here, huh? Oh well, because it's not a mono behavior. So we could make it like a test method down here, like a public void test evaluate stat, and then just debug.log health.evaluate. And then we do context menu. This is just to test that it works. And then we can go back in here, get rid of the debug.log. So if you don't care about testing if this works, you don't need to really do all of that. But now we have this evaluate function here, and if we check here, we now have this value right here because it's between 5 and 10. Yeah, that works as expected. Perfect. So really quickly, I'm going to go implement that change I was talking about earlier. We're going to get rid of this. We're going to go down here really quickly and make a public enum stat type, and there'll be health, tech, speed, damage. I guess I shouldn't. Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. And then I don't know. We could also do like agility, maybe. I don't know how far I'm gonna get implementing all of these, but um, yeah, well, we can always add more later. And then here instead we'll have a public stat type. Type. We go back into Unity. You now choose between what kind of stat we want. So back in our combatant stats, big detour aside, we can now create stats for pretty much everything we want. We want a stat for health. We want a stat for attack speed. We want a stat. Actually, wait, hold on. Yeah, whatever. I'll do it this way. And we'll need a stat for agility. So now this is kind of making this redundant because we have these as our stats. We don't really need the stat type. In fact, yeah, that is. I'm thinking too far ahead right now for something else I want to do later. But yeah, we don't need to specify what stat it is because we're already giving it like what we want it to be here. And so if we go back into the inspector, it already has exactly what we want really. And it also health is probably gonna be somewhere like between 9 and 10. And this actually should be max health, not health. Just because we want our current health to be trackable, so we're gonna make a private int current health, and then in start we just set current health equal to max health dot evaluate int. Oh, whoops. My bad. But yeah, so that will set our current health, and then we can create data accessor. But yeah, this is just a better way of setting it up than the way I had before, just because this allows you to add items that multiply your max health, or when you level up, you can multiply your max health, and all that fun stuff. So let's go ahead and create that accessor. This will just be a public int current health that just returns current health. There you go. Now, what else does our combatant need? He needs attack moves. So what is an attack move? I really should have done a rename, but that's okay. So an attack move, well, not an attack move necessarily, but a move in combat. So he needs, so they need either a way to flee, a way to heal, or a way to damage. And so we basically want the system to be set up so that we just get the move that the combatant wants, and we just pass that into the turn combat manager, and that handles basically everything, including like targets and stuff. And then the way we'll get input for that for the player will be different, as well as from the party members and enemies. But we can deal with that later. But for now, in update here, I guess we should have as well some public, let me go ahead and using Unity engine.events. Let's go ahead and create some Unity events for on hurt. We'll also need one for on death. And then we also need, let me get rid of update for now. So we also need a public void take damage. It has a float damage. And then this will simply just subtract from our current health. So we'll do current health minus equals damage. And then that'll complain because it's a float. So we just do round to int. And of course, if you don't want current health to be an int, if you prefer to float, you're welcome to do that as well. I just set it up as an int so I don't have to worry about text later. But then we'll do current health equals mathf.clamp between 0, or we need to clamp current health between 0 and max health dot evaluate int. And it also for max health, we'd probably just set it up so that the range is the same number. So like here, our x and y would be the same number. That way you don't have varying random health. That would be different. That would be kind of weird. But having it set up that way makes all of these stats a lot better. So it's fine to have one stat where it doesn't exactly work. Anyways, so we have our current health, and then if current health equal to 0, then we basically check if on death is not equal to null, then on death.invoke, and then else, I guess we don't even need the else. Oh, we do. Else we do if on hurt is not equal to null, then on hurt.invoke. And the reason we check that they're not equal to null is that we want to make sure they have listeners and that they've been initialized. Okay. We'd also probably want something similar for healing. Yeah, we could have like an event for on heal as well. But I'll deal with that later, because it should be pretty much identical to set up. But now if we go back into Unity, we have these two methods for when we're hurt, when we're on death, and these are nice because you can subscribe to them via code, as you would do with normal events, or you can also use the inspector to add in specific ones that you want. But we'll talk about these later as we get closer to like animations and stuff. Okay. So yeah, again, what I was talking about earlier here, we'd have this be between 10 and like 10, so that the value is constant. And then if we right click and evaluate, we just get 10 every time. Just makes more sense. But yeah. Okay. What else does our combatant need to be able to do? He has ways to, or he has the stats that we need to be able to access. He has his methods. Now we need, oh yeah, we were talking about this earlier, but we need him to have different kinds of moves. So let's go ahead and create another C# script. I don't know how long I've been recording, but hopefully this one isn't too long. Well, let's create a combat move. Now this is where I was thinking of enums coming into play. And we can also create an inspector for this, which I might do later on, but we'll need some sort of public enum move type. And then there'll be like attack, there'll be heal, and there'll be flee. I don't know if we want any other kinds of moves in this system yet, but you could add them here. Because I'm trying to think of any other things that we might want to put in here. We could have like a pass. You just don't want them to do anything. But yeah. Okay. So our combat move will also not be a mono behavior. So we don't need these either. But this will basically just have a move type, and then we'd have a, hold on, what? So we have our damage stat here, which we'll use to basically give these moves damage or healing depending on what we're using it for. Um, so this will basically just be to hold information about the move, I guess. Public string name, and then public bool. This should be AOE, so like area of effect, and that'll be false by default. Pretty sure that doesn't work, but whatever. Yeah, the area of effect will be so. Will it hit one enemy or will it hit all enemies, basically? And by default, it's false. And then we want to have like costs, like SP or like magic costs or whatever. We could have a public int cost, and then you'd have like another stat in here for like um I don't want to say skill points. I don't know, like what's a I don't want to say magic either because I don't want to like constrain this to that, but like mana maybe, I don't know. Max mana, and then we'd have a similar setup to this. And then this would be current mana, current mana, current mana. And so that way, we'd have you could have physical moves that have 0 cost, or um, other moves that have or like magic moves that have a mana cost. And then we'll do the same thing here, where we initialize current mana, max mana dot evaluate int. Oh wait, it's just no, max mana dot evaluate int. And then this is another one where we'd want this to be a static number. So like the range would be the same number on both ends. And then we'd want a similar thing. So public void use mana, I guess. And then this should be an int cost. I guess just cost. Fine. And then we do current mana minus equals cost, and then current mana equals mathf.clamp. So this just clamps the mana between 0 and max mana dot evaluate int. Cool. So we have that. And then we'll have like something updating based on current mana. So that should be fine. Okay. We have all of that set up and good to go. I think that's everything we'll need for a combat move. So I guess we'll need like to go in here and make a public list of combat moves, or yeah, we'll just call it moves. And you'll probably want to keep this list somewhat low, so like 4 moves. And yeah, so then we just need to go remember and mark this as serializable. And we don't need any of this, so we can just use system. Okay. And in here as well, get rid of that. Okay. So then if we go back into Unity, check on our player. He has this moves drop down now. We'll give him 4 moves. And then the name would be, I don't know, backslash. So a cool thing here actually I should do is move the name up here. So then when we go back in here, it changes the name of the element. Instead of element 0, it just uses this name right here, which is really nice. We can check whether or not it's area of effect. We can choose what kind of attack it is. All of that is great. Okay, so we're basically set up here to start doing turn combat stuff in the next episode. But yeah, let me know if there's anything that you have questions about. I know there's a lot of scripting in like a really short amount of time, but I promise that it'll all work out really well in the end. Anyways, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in the next episode.